So we're going to move on now. We're going to jump straight into the Pinpoint demo. We are here with co-host today, Joe Atkinson. He's the founder of PURPL. He has a wonderful TA training platform that you can learn lots of amazing things on how to be a great TA professional. So definitely check that out. And I thought he was a good person to, roast and ask questions today. Not that we do roasting, but, we've got some questions here to make sure we get the right things out of this demo. And Edd is from Pinpoint. He's been working there for 5 years now, so he knows all about the product, and he's from the product team. So what a perfect person to show us through the automations part of the product today. So thank you, Edd, for joining us. So today we've got a bit of a jump into, like I said, the automation section. But maybe before we jump into that, you just tell us a little bit about Pinpoint and, a little bit who that's for, and then we can jump into seeing what it looks like.
Everyone. So Pinpoint is the applicant tracking system that is designed to simplify complex hiring. And when we think about complexity in hiring specifically, what we really talk about is multiple streams or sort of types of recruiting happening in the same platform. So to give you an example of what that might mean, we have a retail organization on our books who have head office where they hire sort of traditional desk-based workers through a process of sort of a recruiter screen followed by a panel interview, followed by a couple of other stages, an offer, and then they hire people. And that's done by a centralized team of some recruiters. But they also have 300 stores. And in their stores, they have delegated all the hiring to the store's manager. And so that's done completely distributed. And they have a completely different process where they have a one-way video interview for the first round. And then candidates who pass that move into a group assessment where people can sort of self-schedule into one of 30 or 40 seats at any one of these sessions. They get people across different jobs and check them all together and then recruit them from the group assessment. So two completely different streams of recruitment, different ways of recruiting. And Pinpoint can handle all of that in a single interface with a single reporting system. So yeah, that's our sort of way of hiding that complexity behind a sort of modern, focused interface for people to be able to use. I can't hear you, Jessie, sorry.
Guys, I'm doing so good today. Basically, you can get rid of me and just Joe's going to take over because he's probably a better host than I am, clearly. I was going to say, it's really interesting to see, how, different types of businesses can still benefit from, similar tooling. And you've got, something prepared for us. So do you want to talk to us a little bit about that? It's something new, I think. Is it something that you've seen, Joe? Because I know you've seen Pinpoint before, but have you seen this part of the system before?
So I have read up on the automations part, but I haven't seen it live in action yet. So I'm quite excited.
Nice. Then Edd, take it away.
I certainly will. Thank you. Yeah. Well, today, we're going to look at one of our newest parts of Pinpoint, which is our workflow automations tool. And the tool is really designed to supercharge Pinpoint in that it can connect to almost every part of the Pinpoint platform and automate things. And that's designed to give teams back time that would spend normally doing repetitive manual things and allow them to go faster. And we know, obviously, macroeconomic conditions are difficult. People are seeing lots of candidates in market and are being asked to handle more and more candidates. At the same time, their own budgets are being cut, so they have less or the same team members or less team members to handle lots more candidates. And so the sort of timing of this really is to make sure that people can go faster with the same technology. So we're enabling people to just work in a more efficient way. And so, we built an automation tool specifically to help with that. So I will share my screen and give you
a peek. Maybe just to throw that in there, like automation, we all love automation. I definitely do. But I'm sure the question is going to come up about AI. So maybe as you're sharing through that, talk about how you think about AI at at Pinpoint?
Well, look, so the tool we're looking at today is automation specific. And the reason we do have AI behind the scenes in Pinpoint doing a couple of things, like we have in our resume parsing system, which is designed to cover up things in resumes that might be personally identifiable information to help people screen a little without so much bias. And we've got other AI features coming later in the platform this year as well. But the reason we work on automation specifically is we have lots of customers who work in heavy compliance settings like early years education or in healthcare, for them, AI is a roll of the dice that can't really happen. They have to have a completely auditable process where it's explicit that everything that happens a certain way and how it happened. And to those people, AI, I say, can feel a bit, it's risky. And so we designed the automation system to have the same sort of levels of power, but in a completely explicit way. Like when you set an automation tool up, a human defines exactly how it will work. and the process will repeat every time. It's auditable. It leaves the traces in Pinpoint so they can get it back in if they need to see what happened and where, some of which I'll show up today. So yeah, we don't not anti-AI in any way. There'll be more AI features we launch this year, but we wanted to start particularly with the really explicit ways of working first.
I think people have just come around to automation isn't actually AI, right? Like 12 months ago, some of these things people assumed are AI features, actually it's automation.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, and same on the candidate side as well. People don't want to think I've been rejected or I've been screened by the AI and that sort of thing. Again, we can be confident that that's not the case when using this tool.
Good. All right. Let's get your screen up and let's have a look.
Okay, well, look, for those who've not seen the Pinpoint interface before, I'm an administrator, so it looks like this, and you can see lots of things on the left-hand side here. We've got things you can do with the platform. If you're a recruiter or hiring manager, you would see less. It's not quite so overwhelming, but yeah, this is what Pinpoint looks like. Smart, modern. And what we want to look today, say, is our automations. Now, automation, I say, can touch a lot of the Pinpoint platform and do lots of very complex things, but we want to hide that complexity always to make sure that you as a user can do these things in a way that makes sense to you. And so the workflow editor is very visual, but also we have an offer a library of templates. So you can pick out templates straight away. You don't have to go diving into understanding exactly what you want to create and how. So I can come down and choose our template library here. And if I do that, you can see that we've got quite a lot of templates in this list. We've actually just released some new ones in the last week or so as well, and we keep iterating on here. But these templates are designed to solve sort of real-world problems that our customers identified, that are identified in the process, in the recruitment process in general. And we can filter these down, so we can look at like improving specific metrics like time to fill and time to hire, or like candidate experience, for example, or looking at specific categories of automation around like candidate management or job management and so on. But today I'm going to show you a couple of automations. The first one is going to be a template one, and then we'll go and create a slightly more complex one manually. But to start with, what I'm going to do is show you an automation around rejections. And in this instance, I want to reject applications based on responses that applicants give. So with Pinpoint, you can add application questions to an application form that your candidates will fill in. And then the automation here is that based on the answers people give to that question, we can do something with the candidate at that point. And in this instance, the one I'm going to demonstrate is we're going to reject some of those applicants based on the answer to the pre-screening question they give. So, for example, you might ask a question around the right to live and work in the territory where the job is created or the job is hiring for. And for those candidates who would answer that in the negative, they don't have the right to work, no matter how good their resume is or what their background may be, we won't be able to employ them for this particular role. And so rather than have time spent screening those applicants and then finding that out either the hard way later at interview or just not being able to do anything beyond that point, we want to make sure we just reject those candidates early, get them out of the screening pile, so we are just not spending quite so much time on candidates we can't do anything with. So here we have a template for that. We have reject applications based on application responses. So I can choose to view the template. And when it opens, it's going to show me the sort of the bones of how this works. So all the automation in Pinpoint has a couple of components. We have actions, conditions, and triggers, conditions, and actions. Triggers are what triggers the automation. When do we run this automation? Conditions say what are we checking for, and then actions are what are we going to do after the fact. In this instance, it's going to be we're going to check our application. We're going to look at the responses the candidate gave to a question, and then if they gave the response we don't want, we're going to reject those applications. So that's a perfect template here, so I can choose to use this template. And that's going to take us into our automation builder. Now, there's a template automation, but we have to finish setting this up with a couple of details. So our trigger's all set when an application is created, which means someone applies to a job or a recruiter uploads an application, that's going to trigger this automation. But then we have to say which question are we looking for, which pre-screening question are we looking for, and what we want to do with the answer. So in this case, I'm going to come into the system here and I want to say if the answer the candidate gives, and the question I'm going to choose is this: do you have the right to live and work in the job? So yes, so they're going to answer this question, and we'll check if they answer the question no. So we're going to say, do you have the right to live and work in the territory where the job is based? And if they say no to that question, and that's our condition finished configuring, so it's going to save that. And the last thing is to decide what we're going to do. And in this case, we're going to reject applications, which will move the applicant's application to a rejected pool of candidates. But also it's going to email the candidate with the details of their rejection. So to finish configuring that, all I need to do is say which email template I want the system to send out. And you can freeform write one at this point if you wanted to. But I have set up a template in our system, and I've got a standard early rejection with no feedback offered because this is the first stage. And so I could use that template here. I could adjust it for wording around right to work if I wanted to at this point, but I'm going to leave that as it is for now. I can even preview that email. and see
Can you
what that looks
also
like, company branding.
can
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
also delay like the time it's sent?
You
Because
can
obviously you
indeed,
don't want
yeah,
to
absolutely. Yeah. So further
2
down the
seconds later.
options here. Yeah, it would be nice to reject it straight away. I think you might start writing nasty things on Glassdoor about the company if you were rejected after 10 seconds. So yes, you can. You can delay those to specific times of the day. So you can do it between 9 to 5 in weekdays, or you can actually apply a very specific day. So we can say after, let's say, 2 a day, maybe a few hours or whatever you want to do. But we have options here to configure that basically. So you can choose that if you need to. For now, I'll go back to immediately on this one and press save. And that is the automation now set up. That's done as it needs to be. And now I can publish that automation. So I can choose to review and publish. It's just going to ask me one more time if I'm definitely sure, which I am. And the automation is now published. And so with that done and published, we've just launched a relatively straightforward automation, but we've launched it across every job in the Pinpoint platform for this company that has that question associated to it. And you can imagine that could be, in the case of lots of our people, it could be hundreds or even thousands of jobs that applies to. And so we're going to be saving huge amounts of time in the screening process of just having candidates that don't ever need to be screened, not taking up recruiters' time. So again, a really simple automation. It takes us 2 minutes to set it up, but hugely powerful. Lots of efficiency gained by doing that. So that would make sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I think it's quite pertinent given a lot of companies are getting so many inbound by how easy it is to apply with different AI tools, etc. Can you get more complicated with these flows? Can you have different tracks at once, or are they all quite singular?
Very much so. So you can see here that this is the sort of the template we've set up here, but you can keep adding blocks in between, and you can add other conditions and other actions after the fact as well. So I'll ask one to check on one particular pre-screening question. I might then put another one in the flow here and ask for another question, so another condition to check. Okay, if they answered that question, okay, what about another question we care about? So I can do things like that here as well, or I say add branching conditions, which I'm going to show off next, and then choose to move the candidate in different ways depending on how they answered a multi-choice question, for example, like that. So yeah, lots of ways to handle additional complexity to this. Cool. Well, in that case, I'll go on then and actually show you what that branching logic can look like. But that automation is now, as I say, is published and ready to go. So if I go back from here, it's going to take us back to our automations management page. And you can see here I've got a few set up for this particular platform already. And that was our reject applications based on application responses. The one I'm going to show you now is slightly different. It's a job-based automation. So that was an application-based one. But I'm going to show you an automation that helps with closing out a job once a candidate has been hired to a job. And so what I want to do in that situation is when a candidate has been moved to our hired stage and our headcount for the job has been achieved, I want to close the job, but I also want to reject people at the same time just to make the sort of lots of rejections at the end there a little bit easier. I can have the automation system do that. But I want to reject people in different ways depending on the stage of the recruitment process they'd reached. And so we can offer a way to do that through our branching logic, which also exists in this system. So to do that, there is a template, but I'm going to show you how to do it manually. We have our new automation button up here on the top right. I can press that. And it's going to ask me what I want to trigger from. And in this case, I want to do that when the job is filled. So that's when our job's headcount has been achieved. And that's going to be the trigger. And this time, I'm using the similar interface, but there's no further conditions here. It's now on me to decide what I want to do. And what I want to do in this case is once a job has been marked as filled, I want to find candidates in a few different stages and treat them a little differently. So to do that, I would add something called a branching condition, which is our branching logic. And what I want to say is I want to check on that point on the job itself. And I want to find properties around the job. Oh, sorry, actually, no, mistake, sorry. Actually, I'm checking applications, so I want to check application stage. So I'm going to find our applications. And what I want to check is I want to check what stage any candidate is in when this automation happens. And I can have different branches for different stages. So for example, I want to find all the candidates in our applied stage. And I'll probably send them a very straightforward, simple rejection email again. No need for further fluff on that one. But then I also want to have a branch for candidates that have been through an interview with us, in which case they'll be in our reviewed stage that comes after. So I would have a branch for reviewed candidates. And then finally, for any candidates that were sort of silver medalists in the process, what I actually want to do is not send them an email into the rejection. I want to have a recruiter call them. So what I'm going to do is set a task for the jobs recruiter in the system to go and speak to the candidates on the phone and do the rejection on the phone. And then I want to tag those candidates with a silver medalist tag so that if I'm hiring for a job that's similar to this in the future, I can quickly find those those candidates in our CRM. So what I'll do is the last stage here, I'm going to check for our finalist stage of a job, and I'm going to save that. And hopefully once that has finished saving, you can see now I have 3 branches that I can handle in any way I see fit after that point. Okay, so we've got our 3 branches. What we're going to do. Right, first of all, the candidates in the applied stage. For those, again, I just want to send a simple email to reject them. So I can add an action. And I want to send an email to an applicant, so an application email. And again, this time I'm going to pick out the same straightforward template we had before, which was our rejection. Send a rejection with no feedback. And again, that's I can show you the further actions on this, but what's the important point is really in all of this, you can have multiple branches and you can do different things with different candidates in here. So on this candidate, I was going to send an email. On the last candidate, we'll assign a tag to a candidate. We'll assign a task to the jobs recruiter and so on. So you can see, at least hopefully from what you can see on my screen, that this is how the sort of branching is possible, even if I can't go all the way through the demo and show you that in action. Sorry for that. I'm not sure why my internet is not playing ball today. Hopefully it's...
I don't know if it's yours or just ours, or if it's Riverside, or if it's LinkedIn, or if it's... we don't know, but
no
it's
worries.
a little bit robotic, so we'll
look, what I can do is I can at least pause the screen share there for a second, and we can have a talk about it, because I have some other automations I can talk you through, at least, even if I don't show you what that looks like necessarily.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to understand, what kind of automations, because you said it's a new feature. So what kind of automations are people like the most interested in, and what are they using the most? What have they requested even?
Sure.
You have some of that data.
Yeah, definitely. So the rejections on pre-screening questions is huge, of course, because what we're doing really there is streamlining the top of funnel of the recruitment. So every time we screen a resume that is someone we can't actually employ or doesn't have relevant details to make them accessible to this job, we're wasting recruiters' time. And so the simple is a simple enough process to do that. But again, that saves lots and lots of time, recruiters' time, and time is money, and all those things. In terms of other ones we've seen, we have quite a wide variety, but those ones are definitely top of the list. But on another different use case we've had, we have a customer based in North America who works in manufacturing and logistics. And they have I suppose you might call this a nice problem to have. They have a problem with having too many applicants to their jobs. And so in this instance, for some of their roles, they're getting maybe 1,000 candidates in a few days. And what happens is they actually want to do an automation to be able to close jobs to applicants when they reach a certain application threshold. So in this case, perhaps 500 candidates, let's say. And so they know in the first 500 candidates they get, they're going to find someone who is perfect for the role. They're not going to actually need any further candidates. But also, they're connected to a programmatic advertising system. So anytime the job is open and receiving applicants, it's spending money on advertising. And particularly after those 500 candidates, there's just no need. And that problem is often exacerbated by the fact if you set that on a Friday and you go away on Friday afternoon and you've got 100 candidates, you come back on Monday and you've got 2,500, 3,000 applicants. And that's just time and money that's wasted that's not going to be necessary. So we set them up an automation where the trigger is a job reaches an application threshold of 500 applicants, and then the job closes and that shuts down. It's automatic job advertising, and it stops any candidates coming in further until they review that job. Maybe even if they don't find someone in that 500, they can just reopen the job and have it do another 500, for example. But that's a really, simple automation. Again, I think it's a 2-step automation on that one, and it saves them like thousands of pounds in advertising and hundreds of hours of recruiter screening time. So it's hugely important for them. And then something slightly different to that, we have a customer who, obviously lots of customers in the UK want to make reasonable adjustments to people in the interview process. And so what happens is they ask a pre-screening question in the application form about, do you need any reasonable adjustments for the interview process? And if a candidate answers yes to that, the candidate is moved into a special stage of the hiring workflow so that we can find those candidates straight away. And it also tasks a recruiter with checking that stage at that point as well, because obviously those adjustments can take time to set up. And so it just makes sure that those candidates are presented immediately to the right people, to make sure the accommodations can be done quickly, to make sure they can interview these people as quick as possible as well. So 3 to 4 different use cases we've had there, all very, very different, but all handled by the system. And I say it's just sort of, if you can think it, you can probably do it in our platform. It's fair to say.
That was my next question, Ed. Like how can, if I'm a user of Pinpoint, how can I think about what I can automate and maybe what I can't automate? Like, is there anything that would sit in from when a candidate joins an ATS, leaves an ATS, can be automated? Does it go post-hire? Like, can I build onboarding flows and emails that go to a candidate before they start? Like what can't you automate almost?
There's very little, thankfully. And of course, I've talked largely about things you can do with applicants and with jobs there, but we also have tasks around the sort of setup process of jobs. So for example, making sure recruiters have completed their task, or sending hiring manager messages to remind them that they need to provide screening questions or job descriptions, those sorts of things. So making sure jobs actually get launched on time as well. And yet the system is open to all of Pinpoint. So we have our onboarding platform as well as our main sort of ATS. And you can automate things in that with data from that system as well. So yeah, hugely comprehensive and ever expanding. You know, we do get specific use cases if you can't achieve it with Pinpoint. Thankfully, there aren't many, but if you can't, tell our team, we'll have a look at it. And if we can put it in, we'll put it in. So the system is constantly growing. And every time we build new features now, part of the discussion in the product team is, and how will this work with our automation system? So we make sure that those new things are included as part of the spec.
Great. I mean, I think considering that everyone's always, you know, hyping on about AI, it's nice to see actually a not an AI feature. And I think it's just because like there's a use case for automation. There's use cases for automation with like AI enhancement, and then there's use cases for like, you know, AI agents or more agentic AI kind of things. And I think that when you've got standardized, like repeatable steps like this, it just makes sense to have automation. And I think that if you're not doing that already in your current platform, if you don't have a platform, then it's probably one of the easiest things you can do to save time.
I think there are lots of platforms where, certainly some of the legacy providers, to be able to set up automations like that, it's a thing that has to be set up by someone or like a consultant, and there's a fee associated. Where this is, if you're an administrator of Pinpoint, you can come in here and experiment and play with this and get it launched immediately, so it's, you know, as quick as possible.
Yeah. You're on mute. You're on mute, Joe. You did it, Jessie.
Just asking a really insightful question to myself. No, on that last piece, Ed, how do you recommend that teams think about automations? Because thinking outside of Pinpoint, there's kind of two schools of thought where everybody, all IC, should be looking at what they can automate from their own tasks, because they're the ones doing the task, they understand it deeply, and they can build their own automations. Or it should be a leader or an enablement person looking at the team as a whole and like building automations across that team. So interested how you think about that at Pinpoint.
It's a good question. So the system itself is behind a user permission. So you can have people do set up automations. You can invite others in the platform, you know, who have these thoughts to help. You know, they can set them up themselves. It doesn't have to be limited to just the sort of most senior TA people. We do have a role that allows people access to these automation systems. So it can be collaborative in its approach as well. But it's really anywhere. I think a lot of people have the sense of where they spend too much time or where things slow them down. And often we just ask people to have a think about, while they're using the platform or any platform, just think about the moments where this is taking too long. This is a thing or here's a lot of work I'm going to have to do. And just go through that mindset of, if this could be done 10 times faster, how much more time would I have in my day? And that's a good place to start, because I say, like, all the functionality of Pinpoint is there to play with, you know, and so we offer a lot of functionality. So, but yeah, that's certainly a good way to start thinking about automations, is that where can streamlining save me time? And again, we all know that time is money eventually. I think you're muted, Jessie.
Oh, it's 1-1.
No, we've done it again. Oh gosh, guys, you'd think I'd get used to this, but I haven't. That's why we go live, because it's much more natural and organic if we then, you know, doing it offline, so you get to see the full behind the scenes here. But speaking of time, was what I was going to say. We are more or less done with our time today. We've had a look at the kind of what the system looks like. We've had a look at your new features around automations. I think it's very cool. Also, that it's quite easy to, you know, navigate there in the way that you showed it, and can do these complex, you know, more complex, you know, multi-branch automation is also very useful, I think, for the time as well. You know, people need to be more efficient. So great that you're bringing that on board. And yeah, we have to sadly say goodbye. But if you want to find more out about Pinpoint, you can find out more by just reaching out to them directly. You can check them out on stack.tech. They're listed there as well. And of course, you should all go and check out PURPL. If you're in TA, you need to go check out PURPL, Joe's platform. He's got training. There's free options, there's paid options. Very useful, especially now when I think, for me, upskilling is what we should all be doing right now. So if you haven't checked it out, please do. And Joe is wonderfully kind, so you can always just reach out to him and connect to him if you haven't as well. So thank you, Ed. Thank you for showing us Pinpoint, and thanks, Joe, for joining. Appreciate it.